Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Liza Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Liza Florida, and today we've got a very special guest. Sabah Ali is the founder of Brands That Sell. She is a coach, two-time TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and on a mission to help coaches scale their business past six figures. Known for her branding work, she has helped passionate business owners clarify their message and story to attract more clients and gain authority by organic marketing strategies. Sabah's work has been featured on publications such as NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox News. Welcome, Sabah, to the 8 Billion Podcast. Thanks for being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on here. Doing podcasts and interviews are by far one of my favorite things to do. So thank you again, Lisa, so much for having me.
How was your Christmas? We just got off the Christmas holiday long weekend. How was it?
I know. Yeah, it was good. Took some time to relax, take a break. For me, it's always, just working on my business and building and scaling. So of course, end of the year is like right around the corner this week, right? 2021 yes. Is this Friday. So yeah, just reflecting, re-energizing and reviewing to see, what all I can do now going into the new year.
Right. I saw right before I got on, I was looking at IG and I saw like your post was, this is our time to what was this? 2021 is the year to rise, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like I do it every time a year ends and a year is about to begin. That last week, I just take the time to reflect and see what I can change and adjust and really just rise and transform going into the new year. So yeah, it's just exciting. Always such a great time to map out your goals and see and plan what you want to do, in the next new year.
Well, yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you. So you're an author, a two-time TEDx speaker, and now you're a coach, right? So with so many different avenues you could have gone down, why did you choose coaching?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So honestly, coaching was not the first business that I started and I got in. I had to go through a few different things to really identify coaching was the right path for me. I actually started to build my brand and online presence when I was 19, still in college. And for the first few years, I was just creating content online. I was creating content, working with, a few mentors and programs. I know, I worked with Brandon. That's how we got connected.
Yes.
But yeah, for the first few years, I was just basically creating content online and building up my brand. Over time, I was like, okay, I really like this type of entrepreneurship field I'm getting into now. So I started to go down different routes to try and identify what type of business model I wanted to build. So at first I got into podcasting, right? So I
did
all of it. Yeah, I did it for about 6 months. I actually had a co-host who was also a college student back then. So we did for about 6 months. It was a great opportunity to really build our relationships. But soon I was like, okay, I like podcasting, but it's still not quite what I want to do. I didn't really know how to monetize it. So then I got into e-commerce and I did drop shipping and I started to do products, right? Did that for about 3 months. I did it over the summer during my summer break when I was in school and didn't really like it a whole lot either. And then finally, my last year of college, I started to run an agency and that's where I started to do social media, marketing, branding, copywriting. And I ran an agency for about 8 months. And then I realized I didn't really like the back end fulfillment work. I didn't want to build out a super huge team. And I really loved talking with people one-on-one and seeing them transform as a person. So I basically took my agency and turned it into a coaching business, which is what I do now. So yeah, it was quite a few things that I had to go through to try and identify coaching. And yeah, that's what I've been doing now for the past, it's almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in March, full time since graduation.
Wow, that's amazing. No, you really are a true entrepreneur. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the true path of entrepreneurship is definitely trying different things and not being
Yeah,
afraid to either fail or say, okay, this is not the path, and then pivot, right?
right.
So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I don't know, this has been a common question, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. How has 2020 changed your business, or how have you had to pivot? Because I'm sure lots of people are looking for the same advice if they haven't tried to figure it out already.
Yeah, yeah. So surprisingly enough, I've been on a few podcasts in the last few weeks, and you're the first person who's asked me that question, which is
Oh,
so fun.
nice.
Because I think 2020 has been, of course, like it's been like a rough year for a lot of people. But more than anything, I think for me, it's more so like a blessing in disguise. For me, actually, not even just talking about business. Last year around January, February, I actually moved out of my home state. So now I'm in South Florida, around Miami Boca area, but I moved right when the pandemic hit. So of course, it was such a shift and change for me. I didn't know anyone here. And my main reason for moving to South Florida was to go to networking events, to throw events myself, to really build and scale my business in person. So when I did that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I moved and everything shut down. So that
Oh my
like first few weeks, yeah, it was not fun. It was a really tough time just for me to not even like for my business, because my business all is all online, right? Like I coach with people all around the world, but even just like mentally, it was like, oh, I moved and now like I can't do anything. However, what that did really allow me to do is to go all in online and to really just grow my business online. And like for me, I didn't really have to pivot that much. Everything that I do is working with small business owners, online entrepreneurs, other coaches, consultants, service providers, helping them sell more of their offers online through branding and organic marketing. So for me, like everyone else had to go online to really like sustain their business. So I was the person to help them with marketing strategy, with copywriting, to see how they could pivot their own businesses to really grow and thrive in 2020. So for me, honestly, 2020 was my best year yet in my business, which was amazing. But yeah, like I went through my fair share of like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen this year when the pandemic first hit. But after like the first few weeks and like probably after like a month and a half, I realized that was kind of, I don't want to say the new normal, but that was something that I really had to adapt and shift as it was happening, because it wasn't really going away anytime soon.
Yeah, no kidding. So wait, so what has that been like? Okay, have you had a chance? So you literally moved down to Florida not knowing anyone, and you moved by yourself? No, like,
Yeah, so I moved. So I moved by myself. I did have a few friends that were here in South Florida, so I knew a few people. But of course, like because then when I moved, I stayed with one of my friends, but I was finding my own place. And right when I moved into my new place, it was a new city too, kind of North Miami, and I didn't know anyone there.
okay.
So yeah, it was quite a change. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like it was. I feel like I did also need that time to really focus on different parts of my business that were like falling off a little bit. So like honestly, I think it worked out like as it should have, more than anything. But yeah, I mean, now things are open here. I know some places that still locked down and shut down, but things are pretty normal here now. And
That's amazing, actually, to do that. I'm pretty sure you're inspiring so many young people because you are very young. And that's why I was so excited to actually interview you, because you've been able to do so many things at such a young age. And yes, it's true. We did meet each other through a mastermind through Brandon, who's
yeah,
actually coaching me now in a mastermind group of people. But I do remember that you had mentioned in your TEDx talk that how you met Brandon by going to what was this, a college class for extra credit.
yeah.
And so that literally changed the trajectory of your, I would say, what life after that, the 2 years following. Could you explain what that was like for you and how transformative it was?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, yeah, I met Brandon when I was 19. Yeah. Went to go listen to a speaker just for extra credit. Let alone did I know that he would really help me thrive in my career. For me, like I growing up, I was always interested in entrepreneurship. I never really thought I'd go out and like create my own business. So for me, more than anything, when I met Brandon and when I started to work alongside his companies, I really got more so exposed to like the the mindset of entrepreneurs, all about like personal development and like the entire perspective shift we have, and building and creating something of our own. And it was almost like it was just like a whole new world that I had never experienced before. So for like the first year or two, it was just immersing myself with people that were like-minded individuals who were thriving and succeeding in their own businesses. Because for me, like growing up, I was like, my family wasn't entrepreneur at all. So it was just a new world that I got exposed in. So it was cool to see also because for me, and even sometimes now when I go to events, I'm always like the youngest person in the room. And back then, more than ever, I was the youngest person in the room and I didn't have my own business, right? So typically when people go to events, it's like, oh, this is my business, this is what I do. And they're trying to sell each other. For me, it was honestly just like learning. And I found a lot of people really wanted to help me too. So it was cool to see so many like nice and cool people that I met, going to events, working with Brandon, that really also helped my business because once again, when I started my brand, it wasn't necessarily like to sell anything. So for me now, like I teach a lot about personal branding and crafting out your story and using that in your marketing to sell. That's, I think, what's allowed me to have a successful coaching business because I'm not necessarily like selling a product. I'm more so selling myself and the identity and personality that I created because that's what people really buy into at the end of the day. So it was really understanding the concept of, oh, people will fall in love with you. And then over time, they'll want to buy from you and your products.
Yes, actually, that was really helpful because when we did our mastermind group and you were our speaker, I automatically incorporated every advice that you gave on that for me when I asked my question. And it was really,
Yeah.
it allowed me to really focus it in because, with having a podcast called 8 billion, they're like, okay, so, what you're trying to say is even if it's general, you still have a target audience that you can actually connect with. And that's what I started doing. I was starting to piece out each of my messages and allowing that to, allowing to broadcast that. And then even if it just would resonate with maybe a pool of 10, 20, 50 people, that is still, a captive audience. So that is some of the stuff that you teach in your coaching?
Yeah, for sure. Like you don't need hundreds of thousands of followers to have a successful business. It really is that foundation of like a good 100, a good 1,000 people that really are just loyal to you. Like I've had clients that I've worked with that only have a few hundred people that are following them, and they have like a six-figure business. Right. It's not like, so I feel like nowadays, so many people get caught up in like the numbers of like, oh, the more followers I have, the more money I'll make. But that's like, couldn't be like further from the truth, right? It doesn't matter how many followers you have. It's all about the targeted followers and the people that actually resonate with you and your message. And like a lot of the times I know there's been times, where like influencers, we kind of hear stories about how influencers, they have so many followers, they go and they try and create a product like a t-shirt and they sell it online and no one buys, right? It's just because there's no actual connection with the message that someone's trying to create when they are posting content, when they are like creating a brand. And I think I touched on it a little bit when I spoke at Brandon's mastermind was, if there's no real connection of you like posting content or you even building up a following, like why should someone follow you? Like there's no real connection there.
Yeah, no, that was really big for me, especially when you came to speak to our group. I was just like, wow, she's so young and she's so wise.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And then another thing too is like, even before you came on, I watched your TEDx talk, Disconnect to Reconnect. And one thing that we do have in common, I think I briefly mentioned this during the mastermind group, was that we both lost our mothers. And it seemed to be things that they seem to be the ones that kind of inspire us to kind of keep going, or there's memories of them saying things that kind of resonate later on. As far as your TEDx talk, how did you choose your subjects? And like, could you take us down that road of what it was like to apply or why you even wanted to become a TEDx speaker?
Yeah. So for me, being a TEDx speaker was something that was on like my bucket list. I really wanted to do it just because, like, for once again, for the first few years when I first got immersed into entrepreneurship, I didn't even know what TEDx was, but I would like watch videos and listen to people speak on like YouTube, right? So like a lot of TEDx, obviously a lot of TEDx talks, they're very inspirational and like motivational. So I would just like continue to like watch and watch and binge watch them. So over time, when I really got into more entrepreneurship, I started to like write my book, really build my brand. I got interested in speaking. And also, when I was working with Brandon, he really pushed me to speak in front of classes. A lot of people don't know for the first few years when I was working with Brandon, I was more so in charge of throwing events and helping out with masterminds like in person. So for me, like that was also going and selling tickets, right? So speaking in front of crowds. And when I was in college, in front of like classrooms. So for me, over time, I started to really enjoy speaking. So that's when I was like, okay, I kind of want to do a TEDx talk because I do have a story that is going to be really inspiring to other people. So for me, it wasn't necessarily just like sharing my story when I did speak at TEDx, but it was the piece of really reconnecting to yourself. Yeah, like what people don't know is when I was like younger, my mom passed away when I was 15, and I was in a terrible 4-year toxic relationship in high school. And that led me to really low self-esteem, low confidence. I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do in my life, right? Like my motivation, my ambition, and my drive, it just like sunk. So for me, when I did meet Brandon, when I did get introduced into this entire world of entrepreneurship, I realized that like past trauma and pain, they really like stick with you and they do show up in different experiences. And what I realized was that happens to almost every single person on this world too. So for me, that's how I chose my topic, because that was like the breakthrough that I had to start to show up when it came to social media, on camera, to share my story, to really even create my business. So for me, I studied and I studied to try and figure out how can I do a TEDx talk. And the people that I did speak to is primarily just through applying and having a talk that resonated with the theme. Every TEDx event, it has a specific theme. And a lot of times people just like apply to every single talk or every single event that they'll find, but the talk doesn't really resonate with the theme. So that was the main thing that I think really helped me get my first one, was making my talk so revolved around the theme and the connection to like the community where I spoke at. And the first one I spoke at was in Hudsonville, Michigan.
Wow. Okay. And I actually didn't come across that one. I think I was trying to look for that one. What was the title of that one? Cause I'm definitely going to watch that one.
So I actually gave the same talk. The second one was at my university, but yeah, if you just type in my name first and last and type in TEDx, it should pop up on YouTube. Yeah, it's the same thing. Why you need to disconnect to reconnect. Yeah, basically the same exact talk. But yeah, that was the first one that I did, and then I got invited to go back and speak at my university.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. So the Iowa one was the second TEDx talk that
Yes.
you did.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I know it's so interesting though, because, I joined the mastermind to specifically build the podcast this podcast that I just started.
Yeah.
But as I start to coach with Brandon's all, Lisa, I think you're going to become a speaker. So I had always been good at I had always found myself to feel comfortable in front of the public. There's just this long span of time I just didn't do it. So I think that it's really crazy what you were saying, because I was going to ask you that. How did you become comfortable in public speaking? Because I think that's going to be something that myself is interested in, and I'm pretty sure that there's other people that are interested in that. And I'm assuming too, you're saying that as you reached out and started talking to other people, that's what made you more comfortable.
For sure. And then of course, Brandon's all about creating video. A video really helped me to become comfortable as well. Like not a lot of people know, but my last year of college, I documented every single day of my senior year by doing a daily Facebook Live. And not only did that allow me to really build my audience, but I also did get featured on like ABC about it. And it helped me become so much more comfortable speaking as well. Right. So yeah, a lot of times when people, like a lot of my clients come to me as well, they're like, oh, I'm not comfortable on camera. I'm not a speaker. I don't want to do it. It just comes by practice, right? The more times that you do it, the more comfortable that you'll get. But no, you should definitely do a TEDx talk. They don't look for, like, you don't have to be a speaker. It could be your first time speaking and they'll choose you as a speaker. The most important thing is like the idea and the story that you are pitching, because at the end of the day, like TEDx wants different type of people and different perspectives. So yeah, by no means do you have to be a speaker to get chosen.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you documented your whole senior year. So you went live on Facebook. Okay, so take
Yeah.
me through this. I, I do a live stream, but it's on a different platform other than Facebook. So Brandon had us one time do this Facebook live, and then I
Yeah.
was on there, and I was like, no one's coming on here. Okay, were there days that you didn't have anyone? And okay, and how did you get past that? Because I think that's the barriers that a lot of people have, is that feeling of like, am I going to be rejected or something like that? So could you take us through like maybe an experience like that, and maybe some advice you'd give someone if they are looking to be more out on social media? And yeah, sorry
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so when I first started to do the lives, not many people are watching. There'd be days where no one would watch. And I would just like talk to myself, right? But the thing is, like over time, if you continue to do it, like people will watch. Like it's just bound to happen for me. Like when there would be the days no one would watch, I would know that people would be watching, even if they weren't watching live, like whether it be like on the replay or some other day of the week. And I remember this was actually, it was probably maybe like a month or two. And as I was doing those daily lives, there was this live that I did. And I like was doing the live, and I think I was talking about like personal development or mindset or something. And there wasn't that many people watching. I end the live, and like a few hours later, someone messages me on Facebook. They're like, "Oh, I just like watched your live, and I really enjoyed what you were talking about. I'd love to have you come and speak at my event." So the thing is, even if people aren't watching live, that doesn't mean people are going to be watching later. I've had a good handful of times, even my clients that I've worked with in the past now, who've came to me through Messenger and they've never engaged in any of my stuff. They haven't liked, they haven't commented. I've never seen them show up, but they do watch from a distance. So I just always like to tell people, even if you think nobody's watching, people are still watching. Um, so, and like sometimes, like back then when I would do lives, it would kind of even be better if people weren't watching live, because it would give me more confidence to just practice my speaking, right? So sometimes when I'd be like, oh, like just talking and there's like no number showing up, I just kind of get more enthusiastic because I can feel comfortable by myself, right? So even just shifting your perspective a little bit that way when you are just starting out does like the biggest difference. But yeah, like rule of thumb, over time, like people will show up and people will watch it.
Yes, no, and I personally didn't even think for myself how or all of this would take me from a podcast. I started as a doing a live stream on an app in the Philippines because I wanted to connect with them.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I went on, I think I went on for like 3 minutes and then I was like, I clicked off, but I could never believe the transformation. And that was literally like August, first week of August. The transformation from that first live stream all the way to this podcast, which you're going to be episode 11. I just even 6 months, 5 months, 6 months can completely transform you if you just have the courage to just, like you said, put yourself out there and do something a little bit different from what's comfortable for you.
For sure. Yeah. Like it's crazy how fast someone can grow. Just like as if they'd like take the first step. Like if you take the first step, it'll become easier, right? Just a lot of people, they kind of stay in that state of fear that they don't take any steps. But I always tell people like clarity and like anything, whether it's like your business and your personal life and your relationships, it comes from taking action, not thought. right? So like the faster you can take messy action, the faster you will get also clear in your path of whatever it is that you want to be doing.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, that's great advice. Okay, so next question would be, this question sometimes seems so cliche, but it has a lot to do with the premise of 8 billion. Because the thing that I do is when I bring guests on, it's people that are living in their purpose and passion, or in some cases either attempting to. So what I try and do is share stories. For yourself, have you figured out what your big purpose and your big why in life is?
For sure. So for me and my brand, it's all around being unforgettable in your life, in your business, and your relationships. So for me, I found that my main like passion and like the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now is to help and allow other people to be unforgettable in their own life. So for me, I didn't realize this even when I first got into coaching. It came over time as I would like go to events, I would network, and I would talk to people. And what I realized is like I'm naturally more like introverted. I'm naturally more of a listener. So for me, I always gave people and allowed people to speak about themselves and speak into what they want to do, into like their dreams and their passions. So for me, now that I coach, like I'm a guide to help someone actually like, make their dreams into a reality. So for me, it's showing people what they can see within themselves to actually implement and to create something unforgettable. Whether that is in business, life, or relationships. For me right now, I'm a business and I'm a marketing coach. So I'm more focused on business, but over time, as I grow, as I scale, I really want to help people. Going back to my TEDx talk, more focus on like personal development and pain and trauma, because more than anything, I think that's the main like factor in people that are successful in their business, in their life, in their relationships versus people that don't focus on that. And I learned that over time also. I've been through my fair share of going through like coaches and mentors and masterminds. I still have a coach that I work with right now. Highly, highly believe in working with a coach as you're growing and scaling. But for the first year or so, when I was working with these coaches, I wasn't seeing any like movement in my business. Everyone around me was being successful. They were getting clients, they're growing, and I was the only one. I was like, it's not working for me. And what I realized was it was just my mindset and how I was showing up and all the fear that I was actually living in. So for me now, it's just really helping people get out of that state so they can actually take action into, once again, creating something that's unforgettable in their life.
Yes. No, it's interesting that you said fear, because I just did a session with someone last week, and he was saying to me, he goes, Lisa, if you don't face fear and walk into it, you won't know what's past that. So you'll always create this barrier until you get over it. And so how are you supposed to get to that next step in your life if you don't face that fear? Because what you'll realize is that, oh, it's not going to hurt you. You're not going to die or anything like that. And until you face it and walk into it and deal with it, that's the only time you will be able to get past it. So I'm glad that you even mentioned that, because it definitely like resonates with someone, even like yourself. Right. And it's true. A lot of, for me, like exactly what you were saying. And I think I need to start sharing that a little bit more, is a lot more of the trauma or a lot of the pain that happened in my life this is my creative expression of it. Is the podcast, is connecting with other people, is putting out the live streams. So there is always a really, the polar opposite of pain, which is happiness, because you do find that. Now we're going into this new year. We're just a few days away, and you are going to be my New Year's Eve podcast. So I'm super excited about that special message to round out 2020. What does 2021 hold for you?
Yeah, so for me, 2021 is a lot of growth, building up my team and really allowing myself to sit in that position as a real CEO. I feel like a lot of the times when people are starting their business or even when they're scaling, they continue to sit into the position of running their like business, like working in their business aside from actually working on it. So for me, even now, as I continue to like scale it and build out systems and build out teams, it's an entire new world that different than just like being a solo entrepreneur or doing a lot of things by yourself. So for me, it's learning for one, how to also manage a team, how to oversee all the different systems and the areas in my business, right? It's not just like marketing and sales, right? There's marketing, there's sales, there's delivery, there's fulfillment, there's client success. And then you also have your own team. So for me, it's learning all that and actually sitting in the position as a 7-figure CEO and building and scaling. So for me, it's really exciting. I learned that this year. In order for business to scale, it's not more marketing and sales. It's more so a back-end system and teams in order to scale, right? So that was like for me, like the biggest things that I learned in 2020 and what I'm going to continue to do into 2021. Of course, how everything, pans out in 2021, I would like to start to throw events, starting small with masterminds, which is going to be exciting, doing some networking events here in South Florida. So yeah, it's exciting. But for me, it's really just continuing to hone down in my skill set and what I'm really good at. For me, my weaknesses is back-end systems, is operations. So as long as I can hire A players that have the same vision as me, 2021 is going to be a great year.
Amazing. Yes, I know, because I'm going through the same thing too. I'm all like, I was like, I could continue to put podcasts out by myself, but I do know if the message needs to expand, there's a whole team that needs to be behind, the podcast and everything else that I'd like to do, maybe even speaking.
Yes.
But I know. I thank you so much. And I know your time is so precious. What I'd like to ask is if you do have any parting words for the audience as we leave 2020 and go into 2021. Do you have a special message for the audience?
Yeah, I do. So, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. And yeah, typically I actually end all of my like lives and videos by saying this, and sometimes I do on interviews as well, is everyone that's watching, if you truly want to make a change in your life, in your business, or your relationships, it starts and ends with you. For me, every time I show up on a live video, a training for my clients, even interviews like this, and Lisa, when you're doing it for your followers as well, it's one thing of us talking and sharing our experiences, but it's another thing of you guys actually implementing the information and making a change in your own life. For me, there was a phase in my life and in my business where I just consumed and I didn't do anything and nothing changed, right? So like, it's always about like the phrase I said earlier, clarity comes from like action, not thought. The faster you can take action, the faster that you'll also actually reach your goal. So for you that's like listening or watching, just take action now. Like you don't have to know the entire step-by-step game plan, and just take the first step and you'll figure it out on the way.
That's an amazing message, Sabah, to leave 8 billion podcasts. But yes, definitely, if there's anyone that would like to get a hold of you or reach out to you, either for your services, would you like to go ahead and share how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, so very active on social media. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at the Sabah Ali. I'm on Facebook, Sabah Ali. But yeah, if you want to talk more about business, about my services, you need help growing and scaling, you can go to my website, sabahaliconsulting.com. Book a free call. We'll jump on a call, walk through your goals, and see if there's any synergy there to work together.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for your time, your amazing wisdom to take us all from 2020 to 2021. So I'm wishing you so much love, light, and so much prosperity in 2021. Thank you so much, Sabah, for being a guest on 8 Billion.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If it's moved you in any way, please review and share your thoughts, or text me your thoughts at 949-247-2800.